Hello everyone, myself Dr. Mahantesh, Associate Professor, Department of EC SJBIT. Welcome to a video lecture series of Python Application Programming Module 4. In this module, we are going to learn about classes, objects, functions and methods. In classes and objects, we are going to see what is the basic structure of class. What are the program defined types, attributes, rectangles? We create rectangles instances as return values, objects, copying and debugging. Classes and functions, we try to relate classes and functions. We try to create classes and methods. And a couple of examples where we are going to have a look at initiate method, string method. And also we'll see corporate kind of an environment, the vocabulary which will be used in terms of type-based, dispatch, polymorphism, interface and implementation. So what are classes and objects? Functions can be written in different types, and you have a lot of functions. You have thousands together pages of functions, and you need to organize these codes, organize the data. And object oriented programming, it defines types to organize both code and data. So these types are called classes. For example, this is a syntax of a class. Class is followed by the class name and an initializer, attributes, methods and statements. Here we are going to create an object by calling a class point void. So what is a blank? Blank is an object. So creating a new object is called instantiation. So the object is an instance of the class. You can create number of such instances and can be called as an objects. For example, C is equal to my first program. So what is a C? C here, it is a class. C is a class. C is an object. What is a class? Class my first program. Whenever you call this C, print C, it will refer to this class, and inside this class this is a statement which keeps printing. You have a typo error here. It is in fact it's a single inverted comma. Welcome to object oriented programming will be printed, and it will say it's a main class, and this is defined as it's a unique address to the computer memory. So what are attributes? Attributes are nothing but an assigning a values, declaring a variables and assigning a value to the class. For example, you are going to assign a value to an instance using a dot notation. Blank dot x is an instance, blank dot y is an instance. Suppose you define a class called point. Inside this class you have a method that is print underscore point self comma p. So this p can be assigned with a value outside by calling this class. Say for example, I create an object that is blank is equal to point void. So what is blank dot x and blank dot y? I assigned a value to blank dot x, that is 3, and blank dot y, that is 4. Now if you want to call this method inside this class, so you're going to call this method. Since you have created this as an object followed by the method inside this object, that is referred to the class, and blank. So what is this blank? Blank carries 3 values, that is dot x and dot y. This is percentile g is nothing but a floating point. So this gives an output 3, 4. Now inside the function p also it can be aliased rectangle. So you create a class rectangle and you create an object by calling this class. Inside this object you have 3 different variables: box dot width, box dot height, box dot corner. Again you have you're calling a class, you're calling a method inside this box, that is point. And again box dot corner dot x, inside this method again you have another variable x and y. and you assign the value of 0 and 0. Center, again very similar to that. You have a class, you have a small statements return where you return a value p after calculating the center. Objects are mutable, it can be changed, it can be edited. You can change the state of an object by making an assignment to one of its attributes. Copying, you can copy an object, you can create a replica, you can duplicate the objects. Deep copy, these are different types of copying the object. This operation is called a shallow copy because it copies the object and any references it contains, but not the embedded objects. Deep copy, it copies the entire object, whatever values been referred inside the object will be copied. A shallow copy. Classes and functions, very similar to the class and methods. You have a functions. Define a class called time that records the time. This is an example. Class time. Functions that programmer defined objects are parameters that return them as results. This is a function, this is a class, and inside this it is a function. This is otherwise called as a method. How do you call? You create an object, instance with respect to assignment variable to this method to the class. Pure functions and modifiers. Sometimes you might have to write a couple of lines or codes based upon the user requirements, and it keeps changing, the requirement keeps changing. Whatever the plan that is developed at the earlier stage, you call it as a prototype, and whatever the incrementally dealing with the complications or whatever the requirements been satisfied, you call it as a patch, the industry oriented language. Okay, fine. Simple prototype of add time. All these things have been given as an example in the notes, so kindly go through the notes and try to implement or try to compile these lines of codes in PyCharm or and Jupyter Notebook or on using basic idle PyShell. Modifiers. Modifiers are nothing but a function. Again, it modifies the objects. Classes and methods, very similar to the previous things which has been discussed. Object oriented features. Printing objects. We defined a class name, time, and a function print name. Now, how to print those objects? It's very simple. You are going to update this hour, minute, and second inside this class, inside this method, and this object updates. You can see what is this print time start. Whatever the values been given to these attributes initially will be replaced by the values which has been given after calling the object, after creating an object, and then assigning a values to a particular class attribute of the object. So you have some indentation here, you just give an indentation here, it becomes what? It becomes a class and a method. If it is outside, it's a simple function. Print time is a method. All we have to do is move the function definition inside the class definition. Notice the change in indentation. Yeah, and it's another method to print time. You need to observe, you have an argument being passed inside this object, but method 2 to print time again, it's a void. This is another example. Function is an active agent, objects are active agents. Here it's a function is the active agent, here it's an objects are the active agents. INIT method, it's used, is a special method that gets invoked when an object is instantiated. See, for example, here you have an INIT defined. This is an object, this is a function or a method which is defined. Initially the values has been assigned to this. So what is hour, what is minute, and what is second, all have been assigned with 0. Now again you are going to print this, define self. Again you have self hour, self minute, and self second. You are going to refer to this self hour. Now say for example, what is the time? Now if you want to print the time, you see initially it is printed. Now if you give an argument 8, so that is given to what? The hour. A minute and second is assumed as 0, so it will be printed as, you can see, time.print.time. So time is an object, refer to this class. So now time dot print time this class and this object. Likewise, if you give the second value, so it will be appended with 830. If you give the third one, that is for your seconds. str method, it's very interesting. The init method is supposed to return a string representation of an object. We can see this representation of a string. If you use str, okay, so it returns the string. Now you can see here, where is that str method? Init, so self array define print underscore time, so this returns a string. Polymorphism, a function, one function is defined but can be used for multiple other functions. We wrote the strings also work for both sequence and types. This is an histogram which you have written, but this referred to a sequence types. This refers to both integer as well as strings, lines as well as strings. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you. We shall have another video coming in a short period for module 5. Thank you once again.